Hello to all my people, and if you're watching live, checking us out on YouTube, or listening on your favorite podcast provider, you are most definitely my people. Welcome to another episode of Botched and Share Shots. I'm your host, a chef by trade and a mark by choice. I am the Will Gray, and joining us today is NWA superstar, the Thrillbilly, Silas Mason. Silas, thanks for coming on, chat about some wrestling, brother. How are you?
Oh, brother, I am. If I was any finer, I'd be twins, man.
I love the enthusiasm. So let's just kind of dive right into it, man. I always kind of do these in kind of an order. I know you and I are kind of on a time crunch. You got a huge show going, so I'm going to dive right into it. Where's your excitement level right now for the NWA in Chicago this weekend?
Man, NWA Chicago, honestly, dude, I couldn't be any more excited for it. I got a big opportunity with a 20-man battle royal. I should be in the title match against Sion, but EC3, well, he's a Machiavellian kind of. Y'all know what Machiavellian means, right? He's a schemer. He's a little dirty little rat. He's a snake in the grass. So my plan is to win that battle royal. I'm gonna whoop whoever wins the title between him and Sion.
So when you go into these big shows, you just recently you posted all over your social media. You just got your NWA contract. You were signed full time. What was it like to go from being on the Indies and kind of cutting your teeth to holding that contract to work for Billy Corgan and the boys over at NWA?
Hell, makes things a whole lot easier, man. A lot easier. Like that's the thing is it changed my entire life in terms of I'm officially a professional athlete. And that's the thing. They say it makes it easier in terms of everyone kept being like, "Oh, this is easy street." Now that you got the contract, man, now that you're in the big leagues, you want to take it easy. No, man, that makes everything harder. Now I have no excuses to be as hard on myself as I possibly can be.
The NWA, for the longest time, I'm a territory guy. I usually I tell people I cut my teeth the late 80s, early 90s, the end of the NWA, beginning of the WCW era. At one point, they were the three most prestigious letters in wrestling. Looking at it now in the locker room, how important are those three letters to the locker room right now?
Man, it's everything, dude. And like everyone wants to, as a company guy or what, I am under contract and stuff like that. But honestly, dude, it's the exact perfect place for me to be right now. And it's the exact perfect place for a lot of people to be right now. And for a lot of what we do it as professional wrestling. You got guys like Trevor Murdoch in there. You got big old boys like Jax Dane. You got guys who have been doing this for their entire lives. Dr. Tom Pritchard is in the back with everybody. It's professional wrestling, and it's people who respect professional wrestling. And in terms of a locker room back there, you don't have anyone else who's either as tough or has the respect and the legacy and tradition thing, man. Like it's alive and well in the NWA, and people believe it, man. And that's the most important part. You can say it all you want, but you got to believe it if you're going to make it a reality.
You guys have had everybody it feels like to come back and go through that locker room. You've got, Austin there every week. He's an NWA legend. You've had Ricky the Dragon come through at certain points. I saw him in Nashville when you guys came through Nashville. Like, what's it like having a chance to work with these vets that literally revolutionized the business at one of the peaks? You know what I mean? Like I said earlier, it sounds a little fanboyish, but I'll take my due for that. I grew up watching the NWA. What's it like now having a chance to work with those same guys that revolutionized the business?
Oh, it's dope, man. I was just talking to Doc, actually. We were riding in the back of a truck on the way to get some pizza joint. I had to get a salad, I got to be on TV the next day. But he enjoyed himself some deep dish. But no, we sat there with, it was me, Doc, Wildfire, Tommy Rich, and Ricky Morton just sitting at a bar drinking beers in St. Louis, man. And in terms of a fanboy, hell, I'll be the first to admit it. I'm the biggest mark out there, too, man. Like, I didn't grow up necessarily watching all this stuff. In terms of all the old territory, I'm a little bit on the younger side, you know what I'm saying? But I went back and I studied it. And, dude, being around those guys, hearing the stories, the old war stories these grizzled old vets got to tell, man, like, it's truly a great experience. Like, Ming was there, too. Like, 74, everybody came out. But you just keep seeing these guys who have just living like rock stars back in the day. It's a little cliche to say it, but just hearing the old stories and hearing – just the wild stuff they got away with, man. It almost makes me feel like I was born in the wrong time. But I was telling Doc this today. He said, man, you came around too late. And I said, no, Doc, I came around exactly when I was supposed to bring professional wrestling back to what it was meant to be. And that's just big dudes beating the hell out of each other. Because that's the kind of stuff I like.
Big meaty men slapping meat, right?
That's it, baby.
So just kind of feeding off of that, you guys, you just brought it up. 74 was that last year was 74, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, making sure I get my numbers straight. Wrestling at the Chase, you talk about being in Chicago in the Windy City. You guys just came through Tampa. I saw you in Nashville the last time you guys go around. You guys hit so many different markets everywhere you go. One of my favorite things to talk about is the differences between crowds. When say you're in Nashville or you're in Tampa or Charlotte, one of the southern wrestling territories, versus when you go up into a St. Louis or a Chicago. As a talent in the ring, do you feel a difference with those territory crowds?
100%, man. I'm my career stretches back before the NWA, and I started out. Actually, my first ever match was in Oregon. I'm from Tennessee, but the first ever match I had was in Oregon, and I could tell then, and compared to now, obviously it's a lot bigger crowds. But I was in Chicago 2 weeks ago, and man, that's one of the big reasons why I'm excited, because that Chicago crowd. One, they dig them some Thrillbilly, and two, they just get into it, man. They just get into it, and whatever you give them, they'll give it right back to you, twice as hard. But the Thrillbilly is the hardest man out there, so I can give it to them harder than they can give it to me. But no, in Knoxville too, dude. Knoxville, I'm not just pumping it up because it's my hometown. That live power, man, that crowd was rocking the whole time.
I love the Knoxville market. I spent 2 years in Knoxville. That was the last place I was chefing it up before I moved back to Nashville.
Hell yeah.
Deep-seated wrestling history between NWA, Smoky Mountain, and Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and all the guys that came through there. There's still a huge indie thing, like an indie scene there. One of my questions for you is, having your transition into the NWA now, what was some of your biggest adjustments like when you were going from working house shows for indie promotions to being on TV every week, wrestling for NWA and doing Power? What were some of the adjustments you had to make?
Just in terms of like an insider baseball kind of thing, I basically break it down. There's two sorts of matches. There's matches for the television, and there's matches for the crowd. And you have to, and that's most of the, a good match is a good match, doesn't matter what's in front of. But television, it's a lot more like, you go into one of these indie crowds, you can sit there and do the whole, well, who's pulling my hair, ref? You can take your time, just milking every last little bit of what you want. Whereas for a TV crowd, man, like, not only is it your time, it's the company's time, and honestly, it's the other guys in the back's time too. So it's just being able to know, okay, this is exactly what I have to go out here and do, and this is exactly how I'm going to do it, and do it for camera, because you're working for millions of people as opposed to working with a couple of hundred that are there. So that's like the real big difference. But just for me personally, it's just been adjusting to it and getting better and better at it. Like, I was always great at working with crowds and interacting with people. I'm also pretty damn good at finding the camera because I'm so handsome. I know if this is audio only, they can't see it, but that's really been it, is just refining those tools.
So right now, with everything going on, you and Pollo Del Mar are kind of powering through that NWA locker room, no pun intended, with the show and everything. But what's the chemistry?
Yeah, go ahead and intend the pun. Go for it.
See, full intent. I wrote it down and then I was like, hopefully it lands. But you're powering through that NWA locker room. What's the chemistry like with y'all, and what's it like working with Pollo Del Mar?
Pollo is amazing, man. Pollo is one of those people that she is just so business savvy, and she's so savvy at making herself relevant constantly. And by that, it makes me relevant. So at first, whenever they put us together, they're sitting there like, oh, this big old redneck and this beautiful gussied up gal. They're like, oh, just, it's going to be apples and oranges or whatever. You know what? Apples and oranges are both fruits, and they both taste good. So guess what? People are going to be liking what we're feeding them.
Absolutely. I was in one of her live feeds the other night. She was watching Kurt Hennig from some of the old AWA days. And the love for the business, you can kind of see it when you hear people talk about it, and their knowledge, and listening to her talk to the stream, it was ridiculous.
She knows more about it than I do, man. And my brain, I'm built for brawn, not built for brains. So I guess we complement each other in that way.
This wasn't the first time you had a chance to kind of dive into the NWA either. You crossed paths with this promotion earlier in your career, around 2015, 2016. If my due diligence was correct, does that not stand true from what I saw?
No, you must be. I mean, I was trained, I was broken into the business by the NWA Junior Heavyweight Champion Chase Owens.
Okay, maybe that was where
I never wrestled for the NWA before.
Okay, maybe that was the connection there. Well, let's kind of talk about Chase then, because he's one of those East Tennessee guys. He's developed himself in New Japan. What was it like to kind of cut your teeth with him and then follow in breaking into the business, like follow up with your training?
Oh man, like that it was funny because however I got started was I saw a Facebook ad that he put out, and for him to go out and start training people, and there's about 50 to 60 people that showed up. I was one of the 3 people that he chose to continue training, but I was the only one of those 3 people dumb enough to keep doing it. So, I did that, and we trained with him for a little bit. And like I said, I had moved to Oregon, so I trained with him for a bit, and then I moved up to Oregon and started training up at DOA. But whenever me and Trace were training, he didn't have a place consistently set up, so I'd go to every single show, help put together the ring, and as quick as we got the ring together is as much time as we had to train. So some days you have 2 hours to train, some days you had 45 minutes. Sometimes he just wanted to talk, but it was one of those things I felt like I learned a lot whenever I got into training later on. Whenever I fully started wrestling, I was ahead of the curve on a lot of people because Chase, honestly, he's a pretty good trainer.
Let's talk about, this is one of my favorite questions that I've recently added to the repertoire for this. Let's go back to night 1, match 1 now. All the experience you've developed all the way up to where we're at now. If you could go back night 1, match 1, what would you tell rookie Silas?
Coming up this year?
Yeah, like if you could,
very first match ever.
Your very first match ever. You hop in that time machine, you go back night 1, match 1 of your career. What advice would you give yourself?
Hit the fucking gym, kid. Come on, I'm like 6'5", pushing 300 pounds right now. I'm looking jacked. If it would have been way cooler if I was jacked earlier in my career. Like that's the thing, I already got the personality, I already got the size, I have the athleticism. I just didn't always have the look, and that would have been really beneficial.
All right, Silas. Look, we've done all the damage we'll do. I'm going to cut you loose and let you get back to the show. But before we go, I always close with 5 random questions. I got yours ready. You good?
Let's do it, baby.
What's your favorite venue you've ever wrestled in?
Favorite venue I've ever wrestled in? Man. Basement East in Nashville.
It's a hell of a venue. I love that place.
Yeah, and the crowd's just into it. They're, Tennessee fans, so they're always rambunctious and just like they're just a wild crowd, man. They're fun.
As a Nashville native, I love it anytime somebody gives me a Nashville venue. Second question, what's your favorite movie?
Favorite movie? Let's say Walk Hard.
Also, great movie.
People always said I looked like John C. Reilly when I was fat.
All right. What was the last show you binge watched?
The last show I binge... Man, I don't really watch that much TV.
Not a big TV guy?
No, not really. Maybe Avatar The Last Airbender? No, wait, Invincible. Invincible, that one's dope.
Number 4. Do you believe in aliens?
Yes.
It's more common than I thought. And number 5, it's an easy one. Who's your favorite sports team?
Tennessee Volunteers, man.
I'm a UT Vols fan through and through. I usually, if I'm wearing a hat, it's always a big Power T orange hat. Love the UT Vols.
People will give us guff about that. Oh, that's the prettiest shade of orange out there, man.
I love it. I'm a big UT guy.
And we beat Clemson this year, so we are the orange team this entire year. All right, Syracuse has to change their name entirely. We are the orange team, baby.
What about you think about UT joining the SEC in a couple of years with Texas coming in? Do you think there's going to be a big battle?
UT is already in.
I did that on purpose.
If there was no Tennessee, there would be no Texas. That is a historical fact, my friend.
See, that's it. That's the perfect segue to close this episode. Silas, this is my favorite part, though, man. Plug your stuff. Tell everybody where to find you, what you got going on, and where your socials are at.
Baby, you can find me at Thrillbilly, TCB. The TCB stands for Taking Care of Business. That is business, boys. But what is the business? I'll lay it on you right now. It's going to be tomorrow night, April 7th and 8th. NWA coming live to Chicago, Illinois, baby. You're going to see Big Daddy Thrill throwing 19 other men, big, hard, meaty men over the top rope and claiming that shot at the national title like I so rightfully deserve. And then after that, I'm going down under, mate, to Australia with the NWA, The World is a Vampire Tour. That was a terrible Australian accent, but I'll learn it. I worked for 6 months at the Outback Steakhouse. I understand the culture. You know what I'm saying?
All right.
And then you can also find my T-shirts and everything. Every Sunday item, we're getting wallets, we're getting flasks, we're getting everything made. at angrylemonade.net. All your Thrillbilly threads. Right there.
All right. Well, Silas, I appreciate you taking some time out of a busy, show weekend, man, to chat about some wrestling with me for a few minutes.
I appreciate you, man. Let's get me on here when I got a little bit more time. How about that?
Absolutely. We'll definitely line that up. For the Thrillbilly, I am the Will Gray. Thanks for stopping by and listening, my people.
Thank you, sir.